Okay, welcome back. So we're in exam domain 1.4. So grab the guide from the link above if you don't already have it. And in the previous session, we talked about high availability solutions and architectures for SAP or AWS. We explored the pacemaker clustering solution from Red Hat and SUSE. And a key component of this is the networking aspect in terms of rerouting traffic from a node in availability zone 1 to a node in availability zone 2. And this is referred to as overlay IP. So this is the focus of today's session. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to map out the architecture again, and then we'll start to focus on the networking component of that. So overlay IP is like a virtual IP that you would have on-prem, right? And it kind of operates in a similar way. So I'm going to drop a route table in within this VPC. And the purpose of this route table is that it can actually span across the AZs and across the subnets. And I'm going to actually add my overlay IP address in. So 192.168.0.10/32. So it's a single IP address. And the target for this route table will be the Elastic Network Interface for the ABAP Central Services. So ENI for AZ1. Now, at the app tier, there are two overlay IPs that you have in the route table, two entries, right? One for ASCS, one for ERS. And then we also have a database entry. So we have an entry for the database cluster as well, like this. So I'm going to drop this in again. And we'll give this an overlay IP address of 192.168.0.50, again /32, so it's a single IP, and this will be the ENI of the database primary. Okay, so right now the route table is directing traffic to the ABAP Central Services, and this one is directing traffic to our primary database. The other thing you need to know is that the overlay IP address must not conflict with the VPC CIDR block. So that's the range of IP addresses available within the VPC. So if that's configured in my case for 10.0.0.0/16, the overlay IP address must not be addressable within that range. In my case, I'm using 192.168, for example, so that's absolutely fine. But you need to, that's a key requirement for overlay IP to work when you're actually setting this up. Now, the question comes in is, how do you actually redirect traffic from outside of the VPC? Remember, the overlay IP addresses and the route table are only addressable within the VPC. So the question is how do we bring traffic in to hit this overlay IP address and then reroute to the correct node according to which one is up and running based on the cluster. So first things first, let me actually draw in my on-prem site out here. So I'm just going to draw it in like this. So you can see I've got my on-prem building like that. Now, you would have a direct connect or a VPN set up, for example, and that the way that you can, there's actually two ways you can actually connect from on-prem to this route table. And the way that you would do that is either with a network load balancer or actually right here within, just outside the VPC, a transit gateway. So we're going to draw a transit gateway in like this. So either a network load balancer, as I said, or a transit gateway. So let's just draw that in. So TGW or a network load balancer. This is obviously a TGW NLB. Okay, so traffic is then coming from on-prem to our transit gateway and then being routed to our route table in this scenario. So in the event of an outage, the clustering solution would modify the route table entry at the ENI. So instead of pointing to the ENI of AZ1 or the ABAP Central Services, it would reroute traffic to now point to the ERS in AZ2, and this would become AZ2, and we would rub this line out. So it would actually replace the root. It would use a replace root permissions to modify the route table and change the entry to point to the ERS. So let's write up from an overlay IP perspective what you need to remember for the exam. Okay, so the 4 things that you need to remember. Overlay IP must be outside the VPC CIDR range. Remember, we discussed that. There are 3 overlay IP addresses. Only a transit gateway or network load balancer can be used to connect external traffic to that route table. And you must have a replace route for the cluster to replace the route and redirect traffic to your secondary systems. With that said, please like the video, make sure you repost it, and follow me and catch me in the next video where we're going to be talking about disaster recovery options for SAP on AWS. Catch you then.